Hello. Hello. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here. It's been a minute. It's only been a week, but we had spring break and April is a month of birthdays in my house. So I am so happy to be back and excited to share with you something that I think many of us fall into the pit of making this mistake. It's not something we're aware of. It's not something that we understand is happening, but is absolutely something that we have to avoid at all costs because it affects everything in our business. Real quick, we are live. If you have any questions, you can't hear me, you can't see me, then please post in the chat and my team will do whatever they can to support you with whatever technology issue decides to show up today. But we are going to get started and go right into it. So thank you for joining today. And we are going to talk about what the deadliest sales and marketing mistake is that many of us make. And it's what's called half-built bridges. And this is something that I learned from Ryan Deiss with Digital Marketer. And it applies to probably every single one of us. So as we are delivering our product or a service or whatever it is, we know that we can solve a problem with what we're delivering. Sometimes it's hard to help our customer understand that transformation or understand why it's important to work with us. So what I want you to understand is this is an example of what many of us do. And we have ourselves and we can see ourselves on a mountain. And actually, in this case, it's going to be our customer. Our customer is standing on a mountain over across a valley. And on the other side of the mountain happens to be us, our pot of gold. It's the pot of gold that the customer is trying to get to. This pot of gold can be your product that solves a problem, could be your services that provide some type of transformation. But ultimately, it is where your customer is trying to get to, the outcome, the end result. To get that outcome, they got to get to you. So our job often is to build that bridge and close the gap between where the customer is today, and where we want them to get to or where we want them to arrive, which is to us. We are the pot of gold. So what do we do? If many of you have been around for a while, the first thing we do is we build a website because that's what we have to have. There's all these other things we do. We have a business card, we get our business set up, but we start with a website. And it is the focus of everything that we do. What are we going to say? What images are we going to have? How many value propositions can we say on one page? And we go all in on the website. Website's done. It was not the funnest experience, but a necessary evil. And then we're like, okay, now we probably need to blog. So we start blogging. And we're blogging consistently. Every 2 weeks, we're blogging. We're trying to get people to sign up for a newsletter. We're doing the best we can on our website. And then we read something and they're like, oh, a website is not enough. You have to do social media. Oh, okay. So I figure out social media. There's a gazillion different social media networks. So do I do Facebook? Do I do LinkedIn? What is TikTok? How can I use Snapchat? Do business people use Snapchat? Maybe I should do YouTube. Well, then that means I have to be on a video. And I don't like my hair or I don't like how my voice sounds and I really don't want to do video. But we figure out something to start with for social media. And in many cases, we do too much. We start on more than one platform. And they all have their different nuances. So how you speak to people on YouTube is way different than how you speak to people on Twitter, which is way different than what you do on TikTok. So we do the best we can with social media. And it may not be everything that we should be doing, but we're doing it. And it becomes a focus. So we've kind of like lost the desire to do anything with the website. So we stop blogging. But we start doing social media. And this is it. Like, this is going to help us reach our customers and get in front of all of the eyeballs that we want. And then we listen to something and it's like, you know what? There's a gazillion websites, but there's only 1 million podcasts. So you should start a podcast. If you're trying to reach your ideal customer, then start a podcast because they all listen to podcasts. So what do? We start podcasting. And I've had a podcast. I've been this person that has done all of these things. And it is an incredible amount of time and effort, at least for me, that went into my podcast. What am I going to say? What's the theme? How am I going to do it? Am I going to interview people or am I going to just talk? Like, is there a point to what I'm talking about? Maybe I should teach people what they should do with sales, but what if they get overwhelmed? Okay, so now that's not one podcast. That's actually 6 different podcasts that I have to do. So I have to map out the podcast. And then I personally scripted it. So I'd had to write the script and then I had to read the script. But then it sounded like I was like, oh my gosh, so much goes into this. And it became everything that I focused on when it came to marketing. So what we do is, before we know it, we take a step back and realize our customer is still on the other side of the valley. And they're looking, they see the pot of gold, and they're trying to get to the pot of gold, but there's no way they can get across the valley because we haven't finished one thing fully to get them across to us. So what we see is this valley of half-built bridges. We have the best intention. Our goal is always to deliver the transformation to the customer. But our burden is to get the customer to us, to build trust, to build rapport, to build credibility. But what we often don't see is we never finish one full bridge. And I know what you might be saying. You might be saying, well, yeah, but I spent 2 years blogging and never got a customer. I get it. So have hundreds or thousands of other business owners. They've spent 5 years on a podcast and they're like, I have 500 episodes under my belt. I am not stopping now. But here's my question to you. Of all of the bridges that you've started to build, how many of those lead customers to your door? How many of those turn into leads on your website? How many of those convert into a sale? And I want you to just take a moment, because that question, if you're open and you're honest, the answer for many of us is 0. And it's disheartening. It feels like it's really hard and it's a lot of work. And when you think about the time or the money or the countless hours and energy you've expended on this, you are like, why am I doing this? And I get it. I totally get it. But here's what I also want you to do. You have to understand that your craft, your expertise is probably in what you do best. Not building bridges, not social media, not marketing, not podcasting, not website building, not blogging, not SEO, none of that. Unless that's your job and that's what your agency does, is your expertise. So what you have to do is you have to give yourself grace. The other thing is you have to realize that we live in a society that rewards success. So many people show up and say, this is the success I've had. I did this one thing and 100,000 people visit my website every year and I do nothing. But you know what they don't show you? all the half-built bridges they had before they got one full bridge built. So know that you're not alone. These were not mistakes. They were things that you had to learn, not only what to do and what worked, but what didn't work. And there's value in both. So, my challenge to you is I just want you to build one bridge. That is it. One bridge. And before we start to talk about how to do that, I just want you to take a deep breath, because for some of us, we have to mourn and grieve for the time lost, the time wasted, and the money spent. It is gone. We will never get it back. But you know what? That's okay. This is all part of the journey. My mom used to have a saying. She dealt with, she was diagnosed with a lung disease called COPD. She adopted me when she was in her 40s, so she was much older. All of my friends' moms were much younger, so people always thought she was my grandma, and she was my mom. And she got sick when she was in high school. And she was a fighter. Like, she was on disability when I graduated high school. I am a nerd to the core, and I love technology. So I was blessed that I was able to get experience that was just as valuable as an education. So I could provide for her and be her caregiver. But she had these Post-it notes that were little affirmations all over her house. And they seemed silly to me at the time, but they kept her going, and they kept her mentally tough and fighting. And one of the Post-it notes that I still have in my desk today is, it may not be going the way you wanted it to go, but it's going the way it was meant to go. So she would have bad days. And on those bad days, she would get frustrated. Fiercely independent woman that would lose her mobility or would lose her ability to do things on her own. That is a battle. And that's something that none of us know how we would deal with. And she handled it with such dignity and such grace. But that's a lesson that I want to share with you, because many of us have an unrealistic expectation for what it takes. And had we known ahead of time, some of us wouldn't have done it. We'd have been like, you know what? Sounds like a lot of work, because it is. Not everybody is cut for this. But what we're going to talk about now is how you can stop doing all the things and focus on what can move the needle forward in your business. Okay, so we have a couple minutes left, so let's get through it. I'm going to introduce you to what's called the Rule of One. The Rule of One has been duplicated in many different areas: project management, copywriting, marketing, and we're going to talk about it specifically and apply it to the sales and marketing of your business. And we are going to give you permission at this moment to stop doing all the things. Stop doing all the things that you feel like you need to do because you read something or somebody told you, and you've consistently been doing it, and it is not resulting into sales. You have permission to stop, because if it's not resulting into new leads, new prospects, new sales, why are you doing it? Having brand awareness and having a presence and showing up in certain places is great if it leads to business. If it's not leading to business, we don't have budgets of Coca-Cola. We can't afford to buy a Super Bowl commercial and know that not one single person is going to buy another Coke. It's just because we show up. That's just some brand awareness. Most of us don't have that luxury. If it is not working, stop doing it. If you're not spending time focusing on the things that have a return on your time, your energy, or your money, and it turns into sales, you have to stop doing it or outsource it or delegate it or have somebody else doing it. But we cannot. We just cannot. We are only one person. So I want to introduce you to what we call is the growth success journey. You have to apply the rule of one to this process. This is a blueprint. This will give you a process to follow that if you get this down and you focus only on this process, you can predictably and consistently sell. You can predictably and consistently forecast and know that that money is going to come in. But if you start this process and you get shiny object syndrome in the middle of it, then that process stops and the progress that you've made dies. So getting from the beginning to a complete cold stranger that does not know you to the point that they are a customer and a raving advocate for your brand is a process and a systemized process that you can follow over and over again. But my challenge to you is that you commit to this one process until you know unequivocally that you can close business consistently following this process. Deal? I know it's scary. I know we're talking about a lot right now, but so what I want to challenge you is I want to challenge you to choose one market. I want to challenge you to have one way to generate leads. That could be social media. That could be paid advertising. That could be partnering with people that have complementary services. That could be networking, speaking. You need to have one way to consistently generate leads and sales. One way. From there, you need to have one way to convert those leads. So after they find you and they're a lead and they're qualified, how do you convert them into a sale? Well, if you're e-commerce and you have to do everything online, what does that look like? How can they get a little bit of an experience with you? Is that a workshop? Is that a webinar? Is that an online training or course or something that's a sample of what you do? If you are an in-person and you do training and development, then what does that look like? Is that a sales conversation? Is that an assessment of their organization? Is that a discovery period? Is that a trial? Like, what does that look like? One market, one way to generate leads, one way to convert leads. And a question that I always hear is like, well, I can do all of these things. You can, but not all of those things are going to lead to a consistent yes. So if you're not sure, the only way that you can get the right answer is to try it. Take your best assumption. If you have data, look at your data and see, okay, in the past, when we've done this, we've gotten this many leads, but none of them turn into sales. Okay, that's good to know. In the past, we've done this thing and we haven't gotten a lot of leads, but every single one closes. Different outcome. What if there's things that you want to do or you want to try? Can you include that in this? Absolutely. Does that mean you have to? No, not really. But I want you to challenge yourself to have one market, one target that you're going to go after. Not broad, but say that we have clients that have picky eaters, and it's like a little powder that you can put in the food of kids, and it's colored. So there's a yellow, there's a green, there's a red. And 2 tablespoons, I think, are half a cup of veggies. So if you have picky eaters, you can put it in spaghetti, you can put it in applesauce, you can put it in all these different things, and they don't even know it's there because it doesn't taste like anything. But they can serve parents of picky eaters, they can serve vegans, they can serve people that have, there's people that have taste sensitivity and texture sensitivity, and they may not like the texture of certain things that are nutrient. So that could be a market. So your market isn't people that eat. Your target market is, I work with busy moms that are trying to raise healthy kids, but they have picky eaters. That's your target. So I want you to laser in on a market, even if you have multiple that you serve, just for this exercise. And then how can you convert them? How can you convert them into a lead? Try different ways. How can you convert that lead into a sale? And then you have one product or service that you sell. One. If you're service-based, I challenge you to have an entry point. The product or service that you sell could be a paid workshop. It could be a 45-minute paid workshop online. That's something that you sell. That could be the first thing that they experience with you, where you solve a problem and they have some type of mindset shift and they're like, oh my God, I have so many more problems. Or, oh my gosh, this isn't my problem. My problem is actually this, and I have no idea how to solve that. Guess what? That's why you're here. That's what you do. You solve the bigger problems, but you're just getting them in there. Our job is to help them build up confidence that they can do it. People, once we have a rapport with people, people don't doubt we can do it. They're like, Bethany's totally got this. They doubt they can do it. So each little experience that you have with them helps them build up confidence, helps them know that they can do it. So they can trust, they can spend more, and they can get the transformation to that pot of gold that you have on the other side. This is a book that I strongly recommend. It's by Gary Keller, and it's called The One Thing. It will kind of shift your frame of mind to what's the one thing that by doing that, all other things become obsolete or non-existent. What's the one thing that by doing that, this is not quoted exactly, all other things become obsolete or non-existent? When you ask that question, all of a sudden, this big, long list of things you have to do don't seem quite as important because nothing's going away. Doing this one thing isn't going to take 10 things off my list, but I guarantee you there's something on that list that will. So I would challenge you. You can get on Audible. It's a super easy listen and super easy read. If you're in the car, you can listen to it a half an hour a day. If you love to read, get the book. You'll have it next day with Amazon. Super, super valuable book in your business. Okay, so what are you going to do? I want you to take action, and I want you to think about the rule of one. And I want you to think about the one thing. What is the one thing that makes the most sense for your target market? Or what's the one thing that makes the most sense for what you can sell? If you want to get a link to the book, or you want to watch this replay later, or any of the other sales series replays, they are my best that I only share with my private clients, broken up into bite-sized pieces like this. We talked about one thing, and that's what these sales series do. They talk about one thing that you can take away, think about, chew on it, and be like, okay, I got it. I know what I'm going to do. So let me just check before we go and make sure we don't have any questions. You'll see the post, the link in the post, if you have any questions. What if I have multiple target markets? Yes. So let me go back to this slide real quick. Somebody had a very good question. If you have multiple target markets, then I would challenge you. She said, how do you decide which market to choose on? I would challenge you to choose the market that you have data on and you have some type of baseline. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to like blindly start this process and we're not tracking and we don't know what's going on and we don't know if we're doing well or not. So if you have a market that you have data on, then choose that market. Or if there's a market that you know is easier to sell, and you don't have to educate. I love serving markets that are problem or solution aware. Problem aware is I know exactly what my problem is and I need to fix it. They're still kind of researching at that point. Problem unaware is before that, where they're like, oh, my head hurts. But what is that? Is it a headache? Is it a migraine? Is it a sinus infection? Like they don't even know what the problem is. That takes too long. I don't have time to educate. And I would rather have people that are like, I have a migraine behind my left eye that has light sensitivity that is caused from allergies. I need allergy medicine. That is solution aware. I need fill in the blank. I need a leadership coach. I need a house. I need. If someone knows what they need, they are solution aware. What you want is you to be positioned as a solution. So they'd be most aware. So when choosing your target market, I would choose based on what market has the highest level of awareness. Don't go after the people you have to educate. Don't go after the people that might have misinformation or might not know. Go after the people that are looking for your solution by name or by product or service or whatever it is, because those people take less time to convert because they know they have a problem, they know there's a solution, and they even know what the solution is called. Then your job at that point is to convert them from problem aware to solution aware, which they know what the solution is, from solution aware to most aware, where you are the person that they want to choose and they trust you with that solution. So I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, just post it. Yay. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Another question. What should I do? Okay, so this is about lead generation. And lead generation is one of those things, it's selling. And most of us devalue ourselves. Most of us charge less than what we're worth, and we have a hard time asking for that. But when it comes to the transformation that you deliver, the value that you deliver, the services that you deliver, you have to own that power and that value. So my challenge to you, which is going to be an ongoing thing, is to always up your value. And if you don't believe me that you're undercharging for what you think your time is worth, or your services are worth, or your product is worth, just do some research. Google it. Look for experts, look for speakers, look for service providers, look for products like yours. What are they priced at? And are you priced at that same amount? 9 times out of 10, you're not. And that is something you have to work through, and you have to get comfortable asking for your value and your worth. Because if you don't respect your time and you don't value the value of your time, then you're not going to get what you're worth. And gone are the days of doing stuff for free and adding value for free. Add value for free while you build rapport. Absolutely. You have to add value during the marketing process, during the sales process. That is the easiest way to sell. If you constantly add value, then there's this thing called the Law of Reciprocity, and you are building up reciprocity with the people that you're dealing with. There is value in that. But I would challenge you to make sure that you are charging your value and you are making sure that you're basically charging what you're worth. So generating leads is one of those things that we find difficult because we know we have to sell and we know we have to ask for money. And most of us aren't comfortable asking for money. So start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and asking for money and asking for what you're worth. I am a big fan of generating leads through paid advertising because I'm impatient and because things take too long and because things are just way too noisy. Social media is noisy. Searching is noisy. Email is noisy. Everything is noisy. So it's easier for me to stand out in that noise if I know how many people I have to get in front of just to get one person to my website, just to get one person to my webinar, just to get one person to my page. I like paid advertising as a form of lead generation because I can control it versus doing a website and hoping that somebody's going to see it. So I always think the best method for lead generation and for even testing your market, testing your message. You can test a message in front of 1,000 people for $100 and quickly see they like this message, but they don't like this message. So guess what? I'm not going to use that message. I'm going to use the one they like. How much time would it take to get 1,000 people to your website? It could be years for some of us. So I'm a big fan of using ads to help me learn how to sell better. Advertising is a way for me to learn. That is it. So I hope that answers your question. Let me just make sure there's no other questions. I don't see anything. Here's the link real quick to get to the resources and get to the past events. So it's in the chat if you have any questions. If you're watching this after the live, then I just ask that you tag me because I will not know that your question is there because I just don't sit here and watch this. So I never watch past events and I'm not going to see this one. So if you have a question, by all means, post it in the comments, but please tag me or my team so we know that there's a question and we can answer your question. Thank you all for being here. Have a fantastic day and great. It's actually, you got 3 more quarters in 2022. So have a great 9 months of the year to hit your sales goals. Take care. Bye-bye.